taxes.
Picture this. Imagine you just had a hard month at work, slaving away flipping burgers at your local McDonald's. You're in bed when you get an email from them. It says you've been paid $2,000, but your bank account only gets $1,456. You scroll down the stub. Federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. This is the modern ritual of giving away a chunk of your money to invisible forces, and they expect you to say thank you. Here's the deal. Taxes are the cost of civilization. You pay, the government builds roads, funds schools, makes sure your favorite taco truck isn't infested with rats, and sends billion-dollar missiles to places you've never been. But there are different types of taxes. Income tax, which hits the money you make. Sales tax, which hits the money you spend. Capital gains tax, which hits the money your investments made while you were asleep. The government takes a little bit of every dollar. Nearly everyone also pays Social Security tax and Medicare tax. Basically, Social Security tax is like the government forcing you to save for your retirement. They force you to save money now, and you get it paid back to you over time when you retire. Medicare, however, is a health insurance tax that goes to supporting older people or people with serious health issues. Now comes filing your taxes. Oh boy, the government knows how much you owe, but it makes you guess. How cool. If you're right, no worries. But if you're wrong, you're cooked. When it comes to actually paying taxes, some people pay every few months. Some people pay yearly. And then there's those people that don't pay at all and end up in documentaries. I get that taxes are annoying, but it's not all bad. Countries with higher tax rates generally have a higher quality of life all round. Banks. So, you walk into a bank, hand the cashier your money, they count it, smile, and tell you it will be added to your account. You walk out and think, great, now it's sitting in a vault somewhere, being guarded by a dragon. But in reality, that money's already gone. Most people think of banks like a big safe with only one job: guarding people's money. But in reality, they are just a middleman or a matchmaker for financial transactions. When you deposited that $1,000, the bank took $900 of it and gave it to someone who wants to buy a jet ski. That system is called fractional reserve banking, which basically relies on the idea that they only actually need to keep a fraction of the money on hand because not everyone is going to show up at the same time asking to withdraw 100% of their account. That is, unless it's 2008, of course, when people lined up to withdraw the entirety of their account, which caused the entire system to crumble. Banks make money by lending your money at a higher interest rate than they are giving you. That's really it. You're the supply of money, and the person borrowing is the demand. The banks entice you to deposit your money because of a few reasons. It's much easier and more convenient to spend on a card or transfer than carrying around cash all the time. They are literally paying you to hold your money with them in the form of interest. It is much safer to keep your money in a bank than in a shoebox in your room. In the US, most banks are insured up to $250,000 per person, meaning no matter what, the government assures you that your money, up to $250K, is safe. Interest. Imagine you borrow $1,000. You have to pay back $1,280. Why? Because of interest. Interest is money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands. When you borrow, interest is the price tag for using someone else's cash. When you lend or save, interest is the reward for being patient and boring. There are two main types. Simple interest is like, here's a flat fee, thanks for playing. Compound interest is, every dollar I gave you now has clones, and they also want rent. Let's say you owe 20% interest on a credit card. You miss a payment. Now your interest is earning interest. Soon, your $12 burrito turns into a $50 regret. On the flip side, investing at 7% annual compound interest, that's your money duplicating itself like a cheat code. $100 becomes $200. Then $400. Then one day you wake up and you're old, rich, and a little smug about it. This is why interest is the silent engine behind both wealth and debt. In loans, it's the slow burn that turns small mistakes into financial fires. In investments, it's the time bomb that turns small gains into massive wins. So what's the hack? If you're paying interest, kill it fast. If you're earning interest, let it sit, feed it, and give it time. Interest is either your worst enemy or your best unpaid employee. The choice is in who's collecting it. Inflation. Okay, so you bought a bag of chips. Open it up, and it looks like it's already been half eaten. You check what you paid, 30% higher than last time. Then you realize you've just been hit by inflation. Inflation is what happens when money slowly gets less valuable over time. Not overnight, not with fireworks, just a slow erosion. Your $5 bill, still technically $5, but it buys less instant noodles, less gas, and doesn't actually have as much value as it did before. So what actually causes it? Sometimes people just have too much money. Everyone's got cash, and they all want to spend it on the same stuff. Let's say 2,000 people want this $500 TV, but the business only has 1,000 TVs for sale. So the business goes, oh, everyone wants this TV? That'll be $800 now. Sometimes it's supply chains with hiccups or problems, making the cost of producing a good or service more expensive, meaning the cost of that good or service must rise. Or sometimes, just cause. Expectations can cause inflation. If people think prices are rising, they'll spend more now, driving prices up faster. It's a self-fulfilling economic prophecy. A little inflation is normal, even good. 2% a year? That's fine, predictable. But if it spikes, savings die, wages lag. The government tries to fight inflation when this occurs, by raising interest rates. When the government raises interest rates, people are paying more interest, or it's more expensive to get a loan, meaning they have less money to spend on things like TVs. This causes a reduction in the amount of spending, pretty much cooling off the economy. Recessions. A recession is when the economy decreases for at least 2 quarters or 6 months in simple terms. One day you're fine, you've got a job, bills are paid, you might even be planning a trip with the family, but suddenly there's layoffs, the stock market's only going down. In a recession, jobs vanish, companies cut costs, and everyone saves their money for necessities instead of buying things they don't need. Why does a recession happen? It could be a range of things. Could be high interest rates, making borrowing too expensive. Could be a global crisis, war, pandemic, rogue container ship. Could just be the economic cycle doing what it does best. Boom, peak, bust, reset. Think of the economy as a party. In the boom phase, everyone's dancing, drinks are flowing. But eventually, the lights flicker, reality hits, someone checks their bank account, and suddenly, the DJ's playing sad lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing. Recessions aren't forever, they're resets. Painful ones. Governments might lower interest rates, send out stimulus, or just hope people start buying overpriced coffee again. Eventually, spending returns. Businesses rebuild. Growth resumes, but not without scars. Credit scores. A credit score is a shadowy algorithm that knows your name, your past, and how many times you paid your credit card late in college. A 3-digit number that decides whether you get a house, a car, or a soul-crushing 27% interest rate on your new TV. This number isn't about wealth. It's about trust. Lenders want to know, if I give this person money, will they actually pay me back? The score has a range from 300 to 850. Below 580, you're a walking red flag. Over 750, you're sparkling with adult credibility. Most people? Stuck somewhere between 640 and 790. How is a credit score calculated? Payment history. Do you pay on time? This is the big one. Credit utilization. How much credit are you using versus how much you could? Credit age. How long you've had accounts. Credit mix. Cards, loans, mortgages. Variety helps. New credit. Too many recent applications? All of these things are the ways it is calculated. But to actually increase your score, you have to make the required payments on each of your loans before you enter the late period. If you enter the late period, your score decreases. Your credit score is like a pet dog. Ignore it, and it poops all over your life. Take care of it, and someday it might help you buy a house. It's not about being good with money. It's about looking good to lenders. You can have 0 debt and still have a trash score if you don't have a credit history. So yes, the game is rigged. But if you learn the rules, you can rig it back. Currency, or money. The weird part about currency and or money is that it's actually not real. Humans have developed money in order to make the world better. Money makes trading easier, makes it easier to build systems and to organize society. In saying that, there is no more legitimacy between a dollar bill and a Bitcoin. People believe a dollar bill has more legitimacy, and maybe it does, for now, but only because people believe it does. The same can be said for a dollar bill and a stick. The only reason a dollar bill can buy something, and a stick cannot, is the fact that we as a society have agreed that a dollar bill is worth something, while a stick is not. So how does money actually work? Well, the government prints it, the central banks regulate it, and everyday people trade it in exchange for goods and or services. The reason the banks have to regulate it is because if the government prints too much, then inflation kicks in, and everyone's money becomes monopoly money. If the banks make it so there is too little money, no one can afford to live. Currency, or money, is a social construct built on a shared belief and trust. Investing. So you know what inflation is now, and the best way to combat inflation, so your money doesn't become less valuable, is investing. Investing is what happens when your money stops sitting around and starts working for you. Instead of trading your time for money, you're trading money for more money. The problem is there is risk involved. What can you actually buy? Stocks. Tiny ownership slices of companies. If the company grows, your slice becomes more valuable. Bonds. Basically, you loan money to a government or company, and they pay you back with interest. Funds. Collections of stocks and bonds so you don't have to play financial games one by one. Real estate. Property you hope someone else pays to live in. Forever. Of course, there are other things, but they are considered the main ones. Investing isn't about being lucky. It's about being early, diversified, and patient. Most wealthy people didn't win the lottery. They just gave compound growth 30 years to do its thing. And yes, investing comes with risk. Markets go up, markets go down. But the real danger isn't losing money. It's never investing and watching inflation quietly steal your future. Value. This one is more complex, but everyone should understand it. Imagine you pick up a rock. It's just a rock. Now imagine that rock is shiny and yellow. That's gold. It's rarer than an average rock, so there's a higher value placed on it. Gold is not actually worth more than the average rock. It's just worth more to humans because we place a higher value on it. Understanding this is what allows people to become rich. If you provide a lot of value, you will earn a lot of money. Steve Jobs created the iPhone you're most likely watching this on right now. He created something with a large amount of value, so millions of people gave him thousands of dollars for that bit of value. It's the same reason that doctors and lawyers earn so much money. The value they provide is large, and people are willing to pay a large amount of money for their service. Value is the same reason Gucci or Louis Vuitton can sell the same handbag as Target, but charge 100 times the price. People perceive it as more valuable, so it is. If you can figure out how to create value, even if it's not real value, you can make a lot of money. Time. Time is the most valuable asset in the world. And the best part? Almost everyone starts with a lot of it. You probably have a lot of it left. But no one gets an unlimited supply. Most people work jobs where time is traded directly for money. 1 hour, 1 paycheck. Simple math. The top earners have figured out how to make their time worth millions. And the difference isn't magic. It's skills, leverage, and how well you've trained your hours to work for you. But nowhere does time work harder than in investing. There is no greater force in wealth building. Not luck, not income, time. Because wealth isn't built in days, it's built in decades. Money that sits quietly in an investment doesn't just grow, it multiplies. Slowly at first, then faster. That's why ordinary people with modest paychecks can retire with 7 figures.